The snowstorm screamed outside like a hungry beast. Trees bent with the wind, and the sky was white with falling snow. Deep in the forest, inside a small wooden cabin, a human man named John sat near the fire. He was alone, as always. His cabin was warm, full of stacked wood and canned food. Outside, the world was ice. Then he heard it, a sound, weak, soft, a voice. He stood up fast. He wasn't expecting visitors. No one came here. The nearest town was 3 hours away. He moved toward the door and opened it slowly. Wind hit his face hard, cold enough to burn skin. But there, just outside, he saw something strange, two shapes lying in the snow. They weren't animals. They weren't human either. John stepped outside quickly and dropped to his knees. His hands dug through the snow and found soft skin, cold and shaking. A girl, but not like any human girl. Her skin was light blue, her eyes closed, lips pale. Beside her was another one, her arms wrapped around the first. Aliens. John didn't think. He picked them both up, one on each shoulder. They were light, too light, as if starving. He kicked the door open with his boot and brought them inside. He laid them gently near the fireplace and covered them in thick blankets. Their faces were beautiful but thin. Long silver hair, soft glowing veins under their skin, and strange marks on their necks. They were freezing. John added more wood to the fire. He boiled water, grabbed his emergency heater, and placed it near them. One of the girls opened her eyes slowly. Her lips moved, but no sound came. Then with effort she whispered one word. "Please." John blinked. She could speak English? "I've got you," he said. "You're safe now." The other girl opened her eyes too. She was more alert. Her hand moved protectively over her sister. They didn't move much, just watched him. Their eyes were bright violet, glowing softly in the firelight. John brought warm water and a towel. He gently wiped their faces and gave them small sips. They drank like they hadn't had water in days. "You need food," he said. They didn't answer, but followed his every move. He opened a can of soup and heated it over the fire. The smell filled the room. Their eyes followed. The pot like starving animals. He poured the soup into 2 small bowls and handed them over. The older girl took it with both hands, her fingers shaking. She sipped slowly, then passed it to her sister, who drank faster. They didn't speak much, just soft murmurs in a language John couldn't understand. But their eyes, their movements, said enough. Fear, hunger, cold. The younger one leaned against the older, eyes closing again. John placed another blanket over them. "Rest," he said gently. "You're safe now." The storm outside kept roaring, but inside the cabin, the fire glowed warm and quiet. John sat in his chair, watching them. Who were they? Where did they come from? Were more coming? He stared at the marks on their necks. Tattoos, or some kind of alien symbol. Hours passed. The cabin was silent. The storm outside softened a little, the wind no longer screaming. Then it happened. The older girl's eyes opened wide. She looked at her sister, then at John. Her lips moved, and she whispered something in her own language. It was soft, like a prayer. But the word she used, Cathari, was clear. She touched her sister's face and said it again. Then both of them looked at John. He didn't understand the word, but he felt something change in the air. Their eyes weren't just scared. Now they were full of wonder, curiosity, something deeper. The younger one sat up slightly and reached out her hand. Her fingers touched John's hand gently. Her skin was still cold but not shaking anymore. John didn't pull away. He looked at her and she smiled weakly. No words. Just silence, but in that moment something passed between them. Trust. The fire crackled. The storm outside kept falling, but the warmth inside was real. The 2 sisters closed their eyes and finally slept. Side by side, breathing softly under the blankets, John leaned back, still holding the younger girl's hand without thinking. His eyes stayed on their faces. He didn't know it yet, but tonight had changed everything. The fire still burned gently in the cabin, giving off soft orange light. Morning had come, but the world outside was still covered in snow. Trees stood, silent, white and frozen, like statues from another time. Inside, John sat awake, watching the 2 alien girls sleep. Their bodies were wrapped in his thickest blankets. Their faces looked peaceful now, not full of pain like last night. The younger one moved first, her eyes blinking slowly, confused. She stared at the wooden ceiling, then at the fire, and then at John. He smiled gently. "Good morning." She didn't reply, but her eyes followed his voice. Then she touched her lips softly as if trying to find her words. A moment later, the older girl sat up too. She pulled the blanket tighter around herself, but her eyes were alert. She looked at her sister, checked her carefully, then gave a small nod to John. Still no words. John pointed to himself and said, "John, my name is John." The girls looked at each other. The older one placed a hand on her chest and said, "Riva." Then she pointed to the younger one. "Zanari," John nodded. "Riva, Zanari, okay, good." Zanari's voice was weak but clear. "You save." John chuckled. "Yes, I save. You almost turned into ice." Zanari tilted her head. "Ice. Pain." Riva stood slowly and walked over to the fire. She knelt beside it, holding out her hands toward the heat. Her fingers were long, delicate, and slightly glowing at the tips. John noticed something strange. Their skin, when touched by the firelight, gave off a soft shimmer, almost like light dancing underwater. It was beautiful and not human. He walked over, grabbed a pan, and started preparing breakfast. Eggs and bread, nothing fancy. But the smell filled the room fast. The sisters stared again. Riva leaned in to smell it. Her nose twitched like a curious animal. "Food," John said, offering them plates. Zanari took hers slowly. She held the fork wrong, upside down, and tried to poke the egg. John smiled and showed her how to use it. Riva watched and copied him perfectly. They ate in silence. But every now and then they looked at John with soft eyes. After breakfast, Riva stood and looked around the cabin. She touched the wooden walls, looked at the tools on the shelves, then walked over to John's coat hanging on a hook. She picked it up and held it close. John raised an eyebrow. "You cold again?" She didn't answer. Instead, she placed the coat gently around his shoulders. As if trying to return his kindness, Zanari did something even more surprising. She stood, walked over to John, and placed her small hand on his chest, right above his heart. "Warm," she said. John didn't move. Her fingers were cold, but soft. "You're kind, warm," she said slowly. "Ours not," John looked confused. "You mean your people aren't warm-blooded?" Riva sat beside her sister and spoke carefully. "Our home, no fire, no sun, no warmth like this. We survive in cold, but we not strong." Zanari added, "You give fire touch, not just body, soul." John swallowed hard. He never believed in big destiny stuff. He was just a man living off-grid, far from the world. But now, these girls made it sound like he was something rare, special. That evening, the storm began to clear. John stepped outside to gather more wood. The air was sharp but calm now. As he chopped, he noticed something strange near the cabin. Door symbols, drawn in the snow. Glowing faintly blue, he crouched and touched them. They were warm. "What the hell?" he whispered. He rushed inside. "Riva, Zanari, did you draw this?" Riva nodded slowly. "Mark, safe home, we mark with light to show thanks," Zanari said quietly. "Only done for protectors." John shook his head. "I'm not a hero," Zanari looked at him. "You are now." They helped him with the fire that night. Riva folded blankets. Zanari brought wood, even though her hands still shook. When John sat down near the fire again, both girls sat beside him. Not across, not far. Right beside him, Zanari leaned her head on his arm. Riva placed her hand near his knee. They didn't say much. But the silence was warm. John felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. And something else too. A question he didn't want to ask yet. What did they want from him? As the fire crackled, Riva looked at Zanari and spoke softly in their own language. Zanari, single quotes, eyes widened. She looked at John, then smiled. John asked, "What did she say?" Riva answered slowly. She said, "We don't have to search anymore." John didn't sleep much that night. Riva and Zanari rested quietly near the fire. But their final words stayed in his mind. "We don't have to search anymore." What did that mean? He kept glancing over at them. They were curled up under thick blankets like lost kittens, their glowing hair spread over the floor like silver threads. Every now and then, one of them would mumble something in her alien language, but it was gentle, calm. When morning came, John quietly got up, made coffee, and stepped outside. The snow had finally stopped. The forest looked clean, silent, and untouched. But in the deep white surface, something new had appeared. More symbols. Not random, not just art, there was a pattern. Strange curved lines, tiny stars, and a large shape in the center that looked like him. It had his jacket, his boots, and something else, a glowing mark drawn over the figure's chest. John's heart beat faster. He walked back inside and found Riva awake, staring at him like she had been waiting. "What are those drawings?" he asked. She stood and came closer, pointing to his chest. "You are marked?" "Marked?" "Yes," Riva said. "In our world, when a male gives warmth to a cold soul, it leaves a mark, not on skin, on spirit." John didn't understand. This some kind of religion? Zanari woke up then and sat up quickly. She smiled at Riva and nodded. "He's the one the fire chose." John raised his hands. "Okay, wait, let's slow down. What are you two really talking about?" Riva tilted her head. "Your fire saved our bodies, but you touched more than body. You touched life. This bond is rare. On our planet, only 1 in 1,000 finds it." Zanari added softly, "The bond between protector and claimed." "Claimed?" John repeated, confused. "You mean like ownership?" "No," Riva said firmly. "It is not control. It is trust returned. Care shared. 2 sisters lost and hunted, now found 1 man who gave without asking." John stared at them. "I was just helping." Riva walked over to the table. From her small cloth pouch, she pulled out something glowing. A crystal shaped like a half-moon, pulsing with soft blue light. "What's that?" John asked. She placed it gently in front of him. "Marriage stone." John coughed. "Sorry, what?" Zanari stood and walked over. "When 2 offer this to 1, they offer life. Future, heart." John blinked. "You're serious?" They nodded. He stood up, stepping back. "I don't even know what planet you're from," Riva spoke calmly. "You don't need to. The bond is not about names, not about worlds. It is about what you did when no one was watching." John sat back down slowly. He looked at the glowing stone. It gave off heat, not fire, but something warm, like comfort. "I'm just a guy in a cabin." "I don't even have a car that works right now," Zanari smiled. "You have more than that. You have warmth." Suddenly, the cabin shook. A rumble outside. A deep hum. Machines. John rushed to the window. A scout ship, alien, sleek and dark, was flying low over the trees, scanning the area with a red light. Riva and Zanari both froze. "They found us," Riva whispered. Zanari grabbed John's arm. "We must hide. They will take us back." "Back where?" John asked. Zanari didn't answer. She just held tighter. He opened the trapdoor under his table, a hidden cellar he used for food storage and safety during storms. "Down here," he said. The girls crawled inside without question. John followed and pulled the trapdoor closed just as the ship's red light passed over the roof. In the darkness, Riva whispered, "If they see the stone, they will call us broken. Bonded to a human is forbidden." John looked at the small glowing gem in his hand. "Then we hide it." Zanari pulled it from his fingers gently. "No, you must keep it. If anything happens to us, you must still carry the bond." The hum above faded slowly. After a long silence, they climbed out of the TRAPDOR. Everything in the cabin was as they left it. Quiet. John turned to them. "Why would someone want to take you back so badly?" Zanari answered this time, voice low and shaking. "We were raised to serve, not to choose. When we ran, they marked us as lost property." Riva added, "But now we are claimed. You are our proof?" John looked at both of them. They were no longer just strange visitors. They were tied to him now in a way he never expected, and he was holding the proof in his hand. John was chopping wood behind the cabin when he heard it. A sharp crack, louder than thunder, followed by the sound of wind being torn apart. He looked up fast. A small alien dropship, black and sharp like a flying knife, broke through the clouds and hovered above the forest. Its lights turned red. A scanner beam swept across the trees. Then it turned toward the cabin. John dropped the axe and ran inside. "Riva! Zanari!" he shouted. "They're here!" The sisters froze where they stood near the fire. Riva's face went pale. Zanari dropped the wooden bowl she was holding. It cracked on the floor. "We must hide," Riva said quickly. "Now," John grabbed the edge of the rug and pulled it back, revealing the trapdoor again. "In," he said. Zanari looked terrified. "They will burn the house if they find us." "Then they won't," John said firmly. "Go." The sisters climbed down fast. John followed and pulled the trapdoor shut above them. The small bunker was tight and dark, but safe for now. They sat in silence. Only the sound of distant engines filled the air. Then came the thud's heavy boots outside. John held his breath. A metallic voice called out loud and cold. "This territory is under scan. Return marked subjects to owner authority. Refusal is violation." Riva whispered, "They don't care who protects us. They will kill anyone in the way." Zanari was shaking. "They will take us back to the camps." John clenched his jaw. "Camps?" Riva nodded. "We were born in service stations. Raised not to think, only follow, only obey, but we ran. We saw stars and we chose freedom." He looked at them both. Two sisters, hunted like animals, just for wanting a life, and now they were here. In his life, he stood up in the bunker and pulled something off the wall, a long hunting rifle. "It was old, but it worked. I won't let anyone take you, John." Sod, Riva blinked. "Why?" "Because," he said, "you're not tools, you're not property, you're people. And no one treats guests like that under my roof." Zanari reached into her small pouch and pulled out a tiny object, a glowing disc. "What's that?" John asked. "Shield pulse," she said. "Only lasts 10 seconds, but it can block all scanners." "And hold on to it," he said. "We might need it." They stayed hidden for almost half an hour. Above them, footsteps circled the cabin. A voice shouted something in another language, then silence, then a bang. The door was kicked open. John's hands tightened on his weapon. Riva whispered, "No sound." No movement, but Zanari was breathing fast, almost crying. She buried her face in John's chest. He held her close, gently covering her head. The sound of heavy boots moved above them. One of the soldiers walked close to the trapdoor. John's finger was on the trigger, then a strange noise, click, hiss, click. The soldier activated a scan. The red light flickered through the floorboards. Riva pressed the shield pulse. The bunker glowed blue for a moment. Then everything went dark above them. The soldier paused, waited, then cursed and walked away. Minutes later, the dropship's engines roared to life. The sound moved farther and farther until it vanished into the clouds. The trapdoor creaked open. Slowly, John climbed out first, rifle still in hand. He looked around. Broken furniture, a shattered chair. The cabin had been tossed and searched, but no fire. "No damage. They didn't find us," John said. The girls climbed out carefully. Zanari was still holding the pulse disc, now dull and cracked. John locked the door behind them and closed the shutters. Riva walked over to him and said softly, "You are not just a protector. You are now part of us." "I'm just a guy who hates bullies," he said. "No," she replied. "You are more. In our law, the man who defends against the reclaimers becomes family." John shook his head. "I didn't sign up for any alien law." Zanari took his hand and placed it on her chest. "But you followed it anyway." He didn't pull away. Riva looked at the wall, her voice quiet. "They will come again, stronger, with more." "Then we prepare," John said. He walked to the old metal cabinet and opened it. Inside were spare batteries, broken parts of old machines, coils of wire, and explosives from his past work as a miner. He hadn't touched them in years, but now it was time. Zanari stared at the tools and smiled faintly. "You're a warrior," John shook his head. "No, I'm just someone who finally found something worth fighting for." Outside, the snow had stopped falling, but the real storm was still on its way. The snow around the cabin had begun to melt, but inside, Something even stranger was warming up. Riva was in the kitchen, humming softly in her alien tongue as she carefully peeled vegetables with a small blade. Zanari swept the floor, holding the broom like it was a sacred staff. The cabin no longer felt like John's quiet home. It felt alive. He sat by the window, watching them. It had been 3 days since the soldiers came. 3 days of silence. No ships, no threats. Just the sound of fire, snow dripping from the roof, and alien sisters moving freely for the first time in their lives. But something else was happening too. They stayed close to him. Riva often stood behind his chair, brushing invisible dust off his shoulder. Zanari sat by his feet every night, laying her head gently against his knee. They smiled when he talked. They laughed at his jokes, even the bad ones. John didn't understand everything, but he could feel it. Something was building. One morning, he walked into the cabin and found the girls kneeling near the fire. A strange bowl sat between them, filled with glowing water. A small blue flame danced above it. They looked up at him together. Riva stood first. Her face was calm but serious. She held something in her hands, 2 marriage stones. One shimmered red, the other blue. Both glowed faintly. Zanari rose too, her eyes bright with emotion. "John," Riva said softly, "we wish to speak our truth now." He blinked. "All right." She stepped closer. "You saved us when we were no one. You gave us warmth, food, safety. You never touched us with greed. You never used us like others did." Zanari nodded. "You gave us names, choices, freedom." He rubbed the back of his neck. "I mean, yeah, I tried to help. That's what people do." Riva placed the 2 stones on the table. "No, not all people, not all humans. You are rare." John looked at the stones. "So what does this mean?" Zanari walked forward and gently took his hand. "We want to be your mates, your wives." John froze. "Wives?" Riva nodded. "In our culture, when sisters are lost together and saved by the same male, they may bond to him. Together, it is a rare and honored path." Zanari whispered. "And we have chosen." John stepped back slowly. "I don't think you understand. Earth marriage isn't something we just jump into." You barely know me." Riva smiled. Kindly. "We know your actions. They speak more than words." He stared at them. 2 beautiful alien women, both looking at him with open hearts. Zanari lowered her head. "You may refuse. If you do, we will go. We won't stay where we are." "Not wanted." "No," he said quickly. "That's not it. I don't want you to go." Riva placed a hand on his chest. "Then let us stay. Not as strangers, not as burdens, but as yours." He didn't answer right away. His mind was spinning. They weren't just speaking with emotion. They believed this deeply. To them, this wasn't sudden. It was sacred. He looked at the 2 stones dot and then he said, "I don't know the right answer yet, but I won't let anyone take you. You can stay as long as you want." Zanari smiled wide, then leaned forward and pressed her forehead gently to his chest. Riva did the same on his other side. They stood like that, quietly, with the fire crackling nearby. That night, something strange happened. John went outside to check the perimeter and saw flickering lights in the trees. Not enemy lights, lanterns, hanging from branches. Glowing softly, he walked around the cabin. Someone had decorated the entire area with alien patterns. Flowers from their ship's garden pod had been planted in small snow pots. It wasn't just a thank dash, it was a wedding ritual. He returned inside to find the sisters arranging plates and cups. They had made food simple but different. Bright colors, sweet smells, and round seeds that sparked when bitten. Zanari looked up. "This is our offering meal, first dinner as family." John sat down slowly. "You 2 don't waste time, huh?" Riva tilted her head. "We wasted years in cages. Now we don't waste a second." John looked around. His quiet, cold world had changed. His heart felt full but nervous. What if he wasn't enough for them? Zanari saw his face and took his hand. "You are already more than we ever dreamed." The 3 of them sat by the fire that night, sharing strange food and quiet smiles, but far away, in the shadows of the trees, a blinking red light watched the cabin. They were not alone. It was the first clear morning in weeks. sunlight touched. The snow-covered trees, the cabin looked calm. Smoke drifted from the chimney. Inside, John was helping Zanari repair an old radio. Riva was outside, kneeling by the snow pots, her fingers planting glowing blue flowers from her homeworld. Everything looked peaceful. Then the sky cracked open. A thunderous roar echoed across the trees. A black ship dropped through the clouds, like a falling blade. Sleek, sharp, and glowing red at its edges, it was different from the scout ships. It was bigger, stronger. John ran to the door and looked up. The ship hovered just above the tree line. Its engines hummed like a warning. Then a long platform extended from underneath and someone stepped out, not a soldier. Not a hunter drone, a tall alien woman. Her armor was deep silver, shaped like muscle and bone. Her eyes burned like gold. Fire, she didn't wear a helmet. Her white hair was tied back in a single long braid. On her belt hung two weapons, one small, one heavy. John's instinct screamed. This wasn't just another soldier. Riva stepped back toward the cabin. Her voice was tight with fear. Enforcer, Zanari gasped. No. John looked at them. Who is she? Riva's voice trembled. Her name is Verge. She doesn't take orders, she gives them. Verge walked across the snow without sinking, her boots leaving no print. She stopped 10 feet from the door and looked straight at John. You, she said. Her voice was cold, sharp like a knife. Human male. Step outside. John did. He didn't have a gun in hand, but his mind was ready for a fight. Verge stared at him. You hold what does not belong to you. I gave them shelter, John said. They were dying. They are marked slaves, she said without emotion. They ran. That is not allowed. They're not property, he replied. Verge took one slow step closer. Do you know what happens to humans who interfere with our claim laws? No, John said, but I'm guessing you want to show me. Verge tilted her head. You misunderstand. I have no need to kill you, not if you give them back now. They're inside, he said, and they're not going anywhere. The enforcer blinked once. So you choose them. Zanari stepped out of the cabin, holding something behind her back. Her voice was clear but shaking. He didn't choose. We did, Riva stood beside her. We invoked the bond. The Twinstone Union. Under ancient law, we are no longer claimable. Verge smiled slightly. That law is dead, like the bloodline it came from. Zanari held up the glowing stone. Then we'll die bonded. The enforcer reached for her weapon. John's heart raced. He knew he couldn't win a fight with her, not like this, but then something strange happened. Verge froze. She looked at John, really looked. Her eyes moved over his face, then to his chest. Her hand slowly pulled back from her weapon. You? Carry it, she said. Carry what? John asked. Verge spoke slower now. The warmth of the Forbidden's line. The heart blood of the old breed. I didn't believe it still existed. Riva looked shocked. What do you mean? Verge stepped back, her voice thoughtful now. Your human body, it holds something rare, ancient, the same energy once used by our royal healers, a soul that shares warmth freely. That makes you dangerous to our kind, John frowned. Dangerous? How? Verge looked at him like he was a fire she couldn't touch. You break chains without lifting a weapon. You melt ice without using heat. You make them choose. That is more threat than any gun, she turned to the girls. If you stay with him, you'll be hunted forever. Zanari answered first. We've been hunted already. Riva added, we'd rather run together than live in cages again. John stepped in front of them. Then we run smart. We fight if we have to. But they're not leaving this place. Unless they choose to, not unless I'm dead. Verge stared at him in silence. Then, slowly, she reached for her belt and pulled out her badge. She threw it on the snow. Then you're no longer my target, she said. John blinked. What? Verge turned away. I came to retrieve property. But you've turned them into something else. I serve law, but I also serve truth, and the truth is, they are no longer claimable. She paused, looking back one last time. The others won't agree. More will come. Bigger ships, cruel ones, be ready. Then she walked to her ship. A moment later, it vanished into the sky like smoke. John stood frozen. Riva fell into his arms. Zanari clung to him from the other side. "You didn't fight with bullets," Riva whispered. "You fought with your soul?" John held them both. Tight and quietly, deep in the forest, a hidden signal began blinking red. Someone else had heard everything. Night fell fast. The trees stood silent, but John could feel something in the wind. It was too still, too quiet. Riva and Zanari helped them close the shutters, stack supplies, and prepare escape packs. They didn't ask questions anymore. They already knew the real threat was coming, not one ship. Not one enforcer, but a fleet. "They won't accept what Varese did," Riva said. "She showed mercy. They'll show fire." John checked the power cells in the bunker and loaded tools into his makeshift weapon station. "Let them come. I've built traps for a reason." Zanari stood near the cabin door, holding the bonding stones in both hands. "You're still free to run," she whispered. "We won't blame you." John turned sharply. "Don't ever say that. I didn't protect you to run now. I chose this." She looked down. "Then we face it together." A soft buzz came from the old radio, static, then a voice heavily coded, robotic, but clear. "Human cabin identified. Illegal bonds confirmed. Arrival in 6 minutes. Level 3 cleansing begins upon landing." John turned to the girls. "Go to the bunker. Stay there, no matter what happens." Riva shook her head. "You'll die if we leave you." "I'll die if I'm distracted trying to protect both of you." "Let me fight. If I fall, then run." Zanari was crying, but she nodded. "Don't fall." They climbed into the hidden trapdoor, and John covered it with the rug, leaving no trace. Then he stood in the center of the cabin, breathing slow. He walked to the fire one last time, grabbed a glowing coal, and touched it gently to a silver disc on his chest. A gift Riva had placed there the night before. It shimmered faintly like a heartbeat. Then the sky cracked open again. This time, 4 ships landed in a square around the forest clearing. Dozens of soldiers stepped out, all armed, all silent, all cold. John stepped outside. His boots sank into the snow. A tall commander walked forward. His voice echoed through a speaker. "You bonded with 2 escaped females of the Zalari line. This is a violation." "They weren't property," John said. "They were dying." "That doesn't matter. It does now." He raised a small transmitter from his belt and clicked it. Suddenly, the ground exploded. Fire shot from beneath the snow. Trees cracked, and soldiers screamed. His traps triggered in every direction: homemade mines, pressure wires, sonic flares. The clearing turned into a war zone. John ducked behind the firewood stack, rifle ready. He took 1 shot, then 2. His aim was true, but they kept coming. Too many. A shot grazed his arm. He rolled behind the shed. Another blast tore through the door. Inside the bunker, Riva clutched Zanari. "We go now." "No," Zanari whispered. "He told us to stay." Riva's voice shook. "And if he dies, what are we staying for?" They pushed open the trapdoor. John had fallen to one knee now, breathing hard. His shoulder burned and his leg was bleeding. A soldier raised a weapon behind him, but Riva was faster. She threw a blue disc through the air. It hit the soldier and exploded in a flash of light. Zanari ran forward, dragged John behind cover, and held him close. "You fool!" she cried. "You were ready to die." "I was ready to protect you." The commander stepped forward again, face unreadable. "You all will die now. This is final." Riva rose to her feet and held both bonding stones high above her head. They glowed like stars. "No," she said. "We are no longer yours. By blood, by fire, by heart we choose him." Zanari stood beside her. "And if we die, then so be." But it will be as his," the commander laughed. "That bond means nothing now." Then a voice unexpected and thunderous shook the sky. "It does to me." All heads turned upward. A massive human warship dropped from the clouds. Sleek, black, covered in armor and powered by fire-red engines. It hovered above the trees like a shadow from the stars. A new voice echoed from it. "One." John knew, "Varese, this human is under my protection, and so are the bonded." The enemy commander stepped back. You broke protocol. I followed truth. She said. Dozens of drones dropped from her ship and surrounded the clearing. Weapons glowing. John stood with help from Zenari. Riva held his arm. You still have fire in you. He looked up at Varys's ship, then at the girls beside him. No, he said, we do. The enemy soldiers stepped back. The commander gave one final look. Then called retreat. Within moments, they vanished. Into the sky, silence returned. Snow began to fall again. Slow and gentle. John stood between the two sisters, their arms around him. Their hearts full, he looked at them and smiled. So, he said, about that marriage. Riva laughed first. Zenari kissed his cheek, and somewhere far above, the stars began to shine again.